Okay, I think that we're live. Hello, everyone. I am Sam Foreman from the Committee of 70. Welcome as we kick off the first of our 6 Studio C70 interviews today with candidates across Pennsylvania. We're excited to begin our day in Pittsburgh, our first Pittsburgh Studio C70 for this cycle. So welcome Bethany Hallam, Democratic nominee for re-election as Allegheny County Council at Large. I'm now going to turn it over to Kate Harris and the students at Pittsburgh CAPA for today's interview on Pajama Day.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Kate Harris. This is my AP Government class here at Pittsburgh CAPA 6 through 12, or Pittsburgh Creative and Performing Arts. And my student Greta is going to ask our first question.
Awesome. Hi, Greta.
Hi. So can you briefly tell us a little bit of your background, education, and experiences? What barriers or challenges have you had to overcome in your career?
Sure, great question. So I grew up in the North Hills with my parents and 2 younger siblings. I've lived in Pittsburgh my entire life. I was really into sports when I was in high school, and I ended up tearing both my ACLs back to back playing lacrosse my junior and senior years in high school. And at that point in my life, I never ever considered getting into politics. It was just something that didn't seem like people like me got into. And then I got addicted to pain pills after those injuries in high school. Eventually was addicted to heroin, in and out of jail, in rehab, and was homeless for a period of time. And after the last time I went to jail, it was during the 2016 presidential election. And I remembered, looking around, sitting in jail, and realizing I could be doing so much more for the community that I love so much if I wasn't spending all my time, money, and energy using drugs and getting into trouble and doing things that hurt people, with what I was really born to do was to help people. So when I got out of jail in 2017, I decided to get involved with candidates who are running for office in my area and who are now, Sarah Innamorato and Summer Lee, our congresswoman and our soon-to-be county executive. And so it's just regular people who are running, something that I never saw happen before. And so I volunteered on their campaigns. I got involved in some other political campaigns in the area. And I realized that it was one thing to support candidates that I believed in, but that if I really wanted to change the things that I knew needed to change, I had to step up and do it myself. So I ran for county council in 2019. And I beat a 20-year incumbent, but there were a lot of obstacles in the way because I was running against this guy who was larger than life. He was a legend, not just in labor unions, but in the Democratic Party, in politics in general in the region. And I was just this girl that everyone just saw as a drug addict as opposed to a human being. And I would walk into rooms and people would laugh at me like, who are you? Why do you think that you get to hold this seat? And so that was, I would definitely say, the biggest obstacle at the beginning was proving to people that it doesn't matter where you come from. You don't have to have a fancy last name or a bunch of money in a bank account, but that you can participate in the governmental process as well. And so, I stayed true to myself. I ran and I won, and I've been doing the job for about 4 years now. There have been a lot of other obstacles along the way since then, one of which being I really thought that I could change people's minds. I really thought that I could come into government and just be logical and rational with people and appeal to their sense of humanity and that they would see things from the way I saw them. And the reality is that that is not the case. There are a lot of people who do not see the humanity in anybody or anything. There are a lot of people who are not in government or politics for their community, but instead for themselves. And I would say that that's the biggest obstacle since I've been in office. That was an awesome question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Aritro.
Hi.
So my question is, what were your motives for running for county council? And what do you plan on doing in that seat?
Well, we're still trying to figure that out, right? But my motives were definitely just, I truly, as cliche as it sounds, I do believe in a better world. I believe that we live in the greatest country on earth and that we should be able to provide for the people, especially those that need it most. And to me, that was people who are involved in our criminal legal system, in jail and prison, people who are experiencing homelessness, people who look around and see so many people who have so much when they have so little. In my view, that's what the government was designed for, was to protect those people who need it most. And so 100% my motivation was the people I looked around in the county jail around me and said, these are not dangerous people. These are not the people, when you think of people in jail and prison, that you see in TV or in movies. These are folks who are in there for using drugs because they're suffering from drug addiction. These are people who are in there for shoplifting because they were stealing food from Giant Eagle to try to feed their family. These are people who were arrested for, squatting in an abandoned house to get out of the rain and the snow. They were not bad people and they were not dangerous people. And yet they were being incarcerated in a jail, our Allegheny County jail, that has the highest death rate of any county jail per capita in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And they were people who were not even convicted of a crime. And that was something that was so hard for me to kind of understand, is that, legally, factually, these folks are innocent. Our Constitution says that you are not guilty until you have been judged by a jury of your peers. And yet all these people in the Allegheny County jail, so many of the people that we see on the streets experiencing homelessness have been through the Allegheny County jail at some point recently in their lives. And yet it was like they were a problem that our elected officials wanted to sweep under the rug and pretend they didn't exist, or their needs and their problems weren't real. And that just broke my heart, because that's not how I was raised. I was raised to give everyone a chance and to lift people up when they were down. And so that was really my motivation to run, is to amplify the voices of the people whose voices I felt we never heard in the political process, and definitely not in the governmental process. And so that's who I fight for every day. I've gotten a lot done in my first 4 years. I won't lie, the first 2 were pretty rocky. I felt like myself and a couple other council members were alone on an island, just trying to put forth progressive policies and throwing them at the wall and see what stuck. And then after my first 2 years, we elected some new folks to county council of the same mindset, who really wanted to get stuff done. When I ran for county council, nobody even knew what county council was in 2019. I was knocking people's doors trying to tell them about my plans, about how I wanted to make their lives better as their county council member. And instead, they didn't even want to hear that. They wanted to know, well, what is county council? I know about city council. I know about the state legislature. I know about the federal government. But what does county council do? And so that's really what I've been trying to show people over the past 4 years, is what county council and government as a whole can do for you when you elect the right people there. So, we passed a fracking ban in our county parks. We won paid sick leave for all workers in Allegheny County. Brought a lot of attention to the atrocities in the Allegheny County jail. Even implemented a $125 monthly stipend that every single person in the Allegheny County jail gets every single month, to buy food, commissary products, warm clothing, phone calls to call their loved ones at home. We have been able to really, show folks that a $3 billion budget that county government is responsible for can be used in ways that help more people than it harms. Whereas right now, we spend more money on our jail than any other line item in that entire budget. $100 million a year to incarcerate folks who haven't even been convicted of a crime. And that's not even adding in how much we're spending on police to arrest those people, how much we're spending on the courts to put them through trial, how much we're spending on probation and electronic monitoring and all the different pieces of the legal system. I'm trying to help people reimagine what our community can look like and how much safer our communities can be if we invest even a fraction of that money on making sure that all these folks have housing, making sure that all their kids' schools are fully funded so they have air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter, and books that are current and modern and not books from 20 years ago, making sure that people have good paying union jobs, and making sure that folks can afford to live and thrive. And so recently we've been focusing a lot of our attention on county council to our community colleges, which have historically in Allegheny County been severely underfunded, even despite state law that requires a certain contribution from the county. Just focusing on trying to make sure people have the support from their government to lift them up instead of constantly focusing on tearing them down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you. Also, by the way, about what you said in your last question, your last answer, your last name is fancy.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Carrie, and I was wondering what changes do you hope to make regarding our education systems?
That's a great question. You know, I touched on it a little bit in the last answer because community colleges are really the main educational mechanism that county government funds. We have this really awesome resource in our backyard that is community college. It's actually one of the most affordable per credit community colleges in Pennsylvania. Yet what's happening is because they've been so severely underfunded for so long, we have a bunch of professors who are adjunct professors, which means they're not permanent full-time tenured professors who get the same sort of benefits. So they're often working for lesser than their counterparts purely because the college cannot afford and does not prioritize making an investment into their professors. We're also seeing a lot of students, especially, I don't need to tell any of you guys, like through COVID, it was hard, and to get back on track, to get back in the classroom setting, take some investment in counselors, in student resource providers, in the things that happen outside the classroom that actually really facilitate your success as a student. And I think community college should be free. I think that what we need in our region, I mean, in our country, is free colleges and universities. I think that a great place to start is our community colleges, especially because it's already so low cost per credit compared to the other institutions in Pennsylvania. I do think that it would be a great pilot to try here in Allegheny County to actually make community college no cost at all and see how that changes the access to education that people in our region have. So many folks in Allegheny County, 1 out of every 3 adults has used CCAC at some point in their lifetimes, and yet we're treating it as this like third-rate, second-class institution, and that's not the case. People go on to do amazing things. Either they get a degree from community college or they use it as an alley-oop to their 4-year university from community college, but we need to make sure that we eliminate any barriers whatsoever. And I also think that it would really give a funnel for students like yourselves who are in Pittsburgh, who grew up here, who are going to high school here now, to know that no matter what financial barriers you have in your life, community college will be an option for you. And so I really plan to keep investing on that. It's our budget season right now in county council. And so we're really working to make sure that we can give the funding that they need to be the institution that the people in our region deserve. Thank you for the question.
Hi, my name is Evan, and my question is, how can you work to make Allegheny County a safer, greener, happier place and environment?
Well, I think that's my whole job, right? All rolled into one question. That's what we as elected officials are supposed to be doing. You know, specifically when it comes to greener environments, right? The fracking ban in the county parks was one of the first things that we did to really exercise council's authority in a protector of our environment. The Pennsylvania Constitution is actually unique in as compared to other state constitutions and compared to our federal constitutions, where we actually have a right in our state constitution to a healthy environment. And so I think what you'll see over the next couple years in county council is us trying to see what that really means policy-wise. We did the fracking ban for our county parks. Let's see if we can use it to expand a fracking ban throughout all of Allegheny County. We know how harmful the effects of fracking are. We know about the dangerous health risks that are associated with fracking in your community. And so to prioritize eliminating that practice altogether in Allegheny County is definitely at the top of my priority list. I also think a way that we protect our environment is to invest in public transportation. I live in the north side, and you would think it'd be really easy for me to get public transportation wherever I wanted to go. But ever since I got rid of those scooters that I love so much, really the only option is to drive a car. And I think that's so frustrating because we need public transportation to be accessible, to be reliable, that if you have to be at school at 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, if you get on the bus by 8:30, you won't be late for school. That is not the case with our current public transportation system. And I think that that's one of the things that keeps people away from using it to the extent that they could. I love the healthy ride bikes. I even love the electric ones a little more, a little less work for me trying to get up the hills of Pittsburgh. I think we need to, again, bring back the scooters. I am one of the few people that you will see screaming from the rooftops about bringing back the scooters, because those are all trips that people would be taking in a car otherwise. And so eliminating that, eliminating the toxins that are put into the environment every single time we get into a car, every single time we get into some sort of gasoline powered vehicle, I think is really a first step towards improving our environment and also helping get people where they need to go. A way that we can kind of prioritize that at the county level too is we have a fleet of vehicles throughout the county, is to make them all electric, to show that we don't just prioritize this for you, the people of Allegheny County, but we also, as your county government, are going to do the same thing for our fleet as well. So I think that's a few ways. And also we're about to ban plastic bags in the county. You might have seen that happened in the city. That is a tangible way that we can remove plastic from the environment, is just make it that it's not this thing that just is automatic. Every time you go to Giant Eagle or another grocery store where you're just putting more and more plastic into the environment. So really utilizing that right to a healthy environment to protect everybody that we can.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah, and my question for you is, how are you planning on making housing more accessible for low-income families and people in need?
We have tons of empty buildings everywhere. Let people live in them. It is the single easiest way to solve the homelessness crisis in Allegheny County, is to give them homes. And yet it's the one thing that nobody seems to want to do. It's something I spend a lot of my time doing. Every weekend I go out and I go around with an organization to different homeless encampments, the different tent communities that you see around the city, and give out food and give out clothing and give out hygiene products and cigarettes and conversation to people who just aren't getting that anywhere else. And, we talk a lot about the need for people to receive treatment for drug addiction and people to get help with their mental health. And yeah, of course, those things are important, but how can you expect somebody to focus on getting their brain right whenever they have to worry where they're going to sleep at night? We have to provide housing first. It needs to be the absolute first thing we do, so that people know they have a safe place to go. They have a place to call their own. They have somewhere they can keep their stuff with them and not get it thrown away or get kicked out every morning whenever the shelter says that they deserve to get kicked out. That does not allow us to actually help people, to actually build them out of this cycle that they've been caught in for so long. So I think the easiest way is housing first. If you just go walk around downtown, especially since COVID, where a lot of folks are working remote now, there are tons of empty buildings downtown. And there are tons of space throughout the city, throughout the county, where we can build new housing, build new shelters. The reality is that our elected leaders just don't want to make that a priority. They want to say we have this problem that is homelessness, but they don't want to actually do the one single thing that we know combats it, and that's give them housing. And it seems, I'm sure, like such a simple concept, but it doesn't happen. And when you hear that we at the county have a $3 billion, which I can't even grasp how much $1 billion really is, but a $3 billion budget, that budget is a list of your priorities. Whatever you say, this gets the most money, that's what you think is most important. Whatever you say gets no money or gets just a little bit, that's what you're saying isn't that important and you don't think we should invest in. Why is housing not at the top of that investment list every single budget season when we see there is such a need for it? And so I firmly believe in doing a full audit of every single county-owned property to see where we right now in the county have the capacity to shelter people. I think it should be like dorm rooms. I think we should build dorms and we should say whoever needs this can come here. We're not going to means test you and say because you have a job you can't live here, or because you make too much money you can't live here. Everybody gets shelter, everybody gets housing. And yes, there are going to be people who don't want that permanent housing. There's plenty of people that I meet out in the encampments every week who really just like being transient and hopping from place to place. And that's right for them. We also need to have emergency shelter for folks like that who just need to get out of the cold. Prior to this year, every single year, there has been an overnight warming shelter that was open for folks from November to March who just needed to get out of the cold. What happened was, because there was such a need for shelter, that overnight emergency warming shelter was kept open all year. And what happened? People downtown got mad because they had to see homeless people outside of the shelter. And so it got closed down. And now we're about 2 weeks away from November 15th, which is the date when these emergency warming shelters used to open. And there has been no plan announced. So as I'm going around and I'm talking to these folks and giving them blankets and sleeping bags and tents and hand warmers and foot warmers just to keep them from freezing at night, they keep asking, where are we supposed to go? They closed down the one place that we knew we could be safe at every winter. Where are we supposed to go now? And I don't even have an answer for them, because you see this complete disconnect in government between the city where the shelter exists and the county which the city is in. And we need both of those entities to work together to provide housing for these people, to keep them safe, because, you know, it is not a stretch to say that we will see folks who are unhoused dying on the streets at night because they are too cold and our government has not provided them anywhere to go. And it breaks my heart, and it's going to happen. It's inevitable. So what we can do now is to push our elected leaders at all levels of government, including myself and including on county council, where unfortunately, I need 7 other votes to get a majority on council to do any of these initiatives. We need to tell people, give them housing first, keep them safe, keep them out of the elements, keep them warm. And then when we have them there, when we have them safe, that's when we can work to provide them with all of the services that they really need to get out of homelessness and get in a place that's their own.
Thank you so much.
Great question.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Cosmo, and the question that I have for you is, what's a fun fact about yourself?
A fun fact, I got sued by Donald Trump like a dozen times in 2020. That's always my icebreaker in school. So I'm also on the Board of Elections. Well, I am when I'm not on the ballot. And so if you remember in 2020, there was that whole like trying to overturn the election thing. And yeah, Donald Trump sued me by name numerous times as a member of the Board of Elections in Allegheny County. So I'm pretty proud of that fact.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Aria. My question is, in 30 seconds, why is it important for young people to vote?
Oh, it's the most important thing in the world. If you are not voting, they are making decisions about you in elected offices every single day. So it's not that the decisions are just halting because you're not participating in the process. And I understand that it's frustrating to not feel like you're included in your government, to not feel like you're represented. I felt that way too, which is why I ran for office. So remember, don't shame people for not voting. Don't shame people for not getting involved in the process, but try to understand why. And if it's because, like me, they haven't felt represented and they haven't felt heard, then maybe give them some candidates who will represent them. And if they don't see them, tell them to run themselves.
Thank you.
I'm jumping back in. So that was actually our last pre-planned question. I think you talked a little faster than we thought, although I think your answers were really interesting. Do we have time? I don't know. Is there another question out here? Yep, Sadie's got one.
This is a really good question.
Okay, she's coming. I'm gonna let her jump in.
Thanks.
Are there any foreign policies that you would like to implement in Allegheny County?
I don't really think we have the jurisdiction to do that. You mean like actually in regards to what we should be doing in foreign policy, like how we as a United States government should be acting overseas?
Not necessarily, like more so policies that are used in foreign countries that you think could be used here.
Oh, absolutely. So I will say, first and foremost, I am an abolitionist, which means that I do not believe in carceral settings and our carceral system as it exists right now and our legal system as a whole. And I do think that there are some other countries who are doing restorative justice a heck of a lot better than we have ever even tried to do here. I know you might have seen online, like prisons, Scandinavian prisons, how they're more like resorts that people go to actually be rehabilitated. I believe that until we actually get abolitionism and we actually get a country where our criminal legal system is abolished, that we need to take steps that are harm reduction to get us there. And I do believe having actual rehabilitative places that people can go to modify their behaviors and get themselves set up to succeed is something from another country I'd like to see implemented here. And also, I know this is like kind of a controversial opinion, but I am a firm believer in the legalization of all drugs. We've seen it work in other countries. My friends who are dead because not because they use drugs, but because they use drugs that had poison in them, that they did not know the dosage. They did not know what other substances were in the drugs that they were using. That is why they were dead. It was not an overdose. It was a poisoning in every single instance of drug overdose. And so we've seen with alcohol is regulated. People no longer die from alcohol. We see with cannabis, at least medicinally here in our region, is regulated. And now you know what's in your cannabis when you go to get it from an approved store. We know that people don't just start using drugs because they're suddenly legal. But what we do know is people stop dying once they are legalized. So that's something that works in other countries that I'd really like to see us get towards here, because I am really, more than anything else, sick and tired of going to funerals for people that I love because we have an unregulated drug supply.
Thank you.
Good question.
All right. Well, that was just, thank you everyone. Again, what an incredible interview to start the day. Thank you, all the question askers and all the work that you all did to prepare for this. And thank you, Bethany, for spending the time with us. Just a couple reminders before we go. Again, November 7th is Election Day in Pennsylvania. It's coming up. Visit 70.org, use our ballot tools, stay informed, and tune in to our upcoming sessions, including one in 10 minutes back Southeast in Philadelphia with Fox Big Picture High School and Jeffrey Young Jr., who's running for city council there. So thank you again, and have a great